So there are a lot of topics that I've been meaning to discuss and make videos about and have been putting off just for the sake of, I guess, focusing on me for a little while. And one that has been nagging me recently, it pops up from time to time, is a point that I wanted to make about Thomas A. Pallone, also known as Tristen E. Nicol. And so it's, again, this guy I think is a part of this network that I've been researching, that I think traffics in children and sexually abuses children. I think that he's connected with Jose Jan Frank, and or his father, Joachim Frank. I've made previous videos talking about why I think they're connected. In this video, I wanted to focus more on a point that I noticed about Tristen E. Nicol, or Thomas, that made me realize that this guy is a guy. He's a guy pretending to be a woman. So he goes by Tristen E. Nicol. I believe his original name was Thomas A. Pallone. Here's how you spell that. He hails from Asbury Park, New Jersey, that area. That's where I met him for the first time. In fact, right there, the second option down, 581 Patton Avenue, apartment 22, Long Branch, New Jersey. That's the apartment that I met him at. And I was put in touch with him by a random woman who I barely knew her to begin with. Without prattling on and on with the backstory, I'll just say that I found myself in early 2023 to be briefly homeless, and didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to go. And this woman, who, again, I barely knew her, listened to my problems for a minute and suggested I go stay with her friend, Tristen. And I believe she was kind of inserted, I think that she was sent to be inserted into my life, to try and lure me into a trap to go stay with this guy. Because, again, I think that he and this woman, her name's Jen, are part of this network of people that I think they traffic in children. I think they pimp out their own children. I think that they engage in incest, and they pimp out their own children to other members of the network in exchange for money. And I've been writing about them. I've been talking about them in videos on this very YouTube channel for a while now, for going on a couple of years, or longer than that. And I think that obviously they don't like that. They don't want me drawing attention to them. And so I think that they tried to lure me into a trap to probably hurt me. So something I wanted to point out about Thomas Pallone, about my brief experience with this guy, and one of the things he did or said that really didn't sit right with me, didn't sit well with me at first for a while, and I couldn't quite pinpoint why. I had a lot on my mind, so I wasn't stopping to analyze every little thing. But then it hit me one day. It kind of washed over me, like a little eureka moment, why this thing that he suggested did not sit right with me. So again, let me remind you, he is, or claims to be, transgender, a man who is supposed to be a woman. I do not think that is the case at all. I think he is a man. He's just a man, and he might believe he was supposed to be a woman, but he's very wrong. And or he's just faking being a woman, so that he can ride this, well, let's just call it what it is. It's a trend. It's become a trend for people to think that if they feel a little bit weird, that must mean that they are the opposite sex. And I'm going to make a point. I'm going to make my argument to you right now why, for at least some of these people, that is simply not the case. I don't care how much they claim that they are. I don't care how much, a man claims that he's a woman. If he doesn't show certain intangible characteristics that a woman has, then he's not a woman. All right? There's more to being a woman than what's between our legs. So this is the name he goes by now, Tristen Nicol. And so early in March 2023, I wound up going to his place. I had only spoken to him briefly about a couple of times over the phone. That woman, Jen, put me in touch with him, and she has a young daughter who is like about 4 years old, I believe, at the time that I met her. And told me that she regularly sends, and Thomas, Tristen, also told me this, that he regularly babysits this young girl for Jen. So I was there. I arrived at his apartment on a Monday, and I left Wednesday early evening. Aside from the fact that I already mentioned this in previous videos, go back to like March, April of 2023, roughly around that time period, and you'll see I posted several videos about this guy and talking about things that tipped me off to the fact that I think he's a part of this network. It's hard to find. He has a Facebook page also under this name. On that Facebook page, if you can manage to befriend him on Facebook, he has some actual pictures of himself, but his cover photo on his Facebook and here on LinkedIn it's the same. It's a drawing or a painting of him looking very young. Now, when I met this guy, he was 70 years old, a 70-year-old man claiming to be a 70-year-old woman. That's very important. Keep that in mind. 70. And I was 38. I was 39. No, sorry. I was 38. I hadn't quite turned 39 yet. So he was 70 years old. I was 38. I right away, you should know I have pretty good gut instincts for when something's amiss, when someone has certain feelings towards me that maybe they're hiding. And I very quickly got the feeling that this guy hated my guts, but was pretending to like me and pretending to be friends with me. Now, again, it's also very important to keep in mind that he had never met me before I showed up at his doorstep on a Monday in early March 2023. He invited me in. He let me, get comfortable. I really only had like a bag of clothing with me. And he was in a little one-bedroom apartment. But he had a nice big couch. It was one of those wraparound couches. It took up like a whole corner of his living room. And I made it clear to him, I had been traveling around in an RV, like traveling around the country for the previous, 1 to 2 years in an RV that I no longer had to live in. And so I was used to like roughing it. So I didn't need anything too fancy or super comfortable. And I was like, the couch is absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I'm so thankful to just be able to sleep on your couch, indoors under a roof. And assured him I was going to, work my butt off and focus on just getting myself back on my feet and getting out of his situation, because I didn't want to put him out for too long. I felt very awkward about the situation to begin with. And tried to be very respectful of the fact that he claimed to be a woman, didn't argue with him about it or anything like that, and listened to him sort of give me some explanations on the whole thing. But aside from also the fact that, so I felt like he secretly hated me And that is a thing, by the way. I forget the name of it, but there's an actual psychological term for men that want to be women. Doesn't mean that they're meant to be women, but they want to be a woman, and they actually secretly hate women. They're envious of actual women. And there's actually a movie with Michael Caine, that's something along those lines, and I don't remember the name of that movie, where he's like a therapist to this woman, and it turns out he has that affliction. He secretly like loathes this woman who's his patient. He's obsessed with her and wants to be her, and he hates her and becomes violent. We also kind of see this touched upon with the movie Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock with Norman Bates. He kills his own mother and then dresses up as her when he goes around killing other women. Again, it does not mean Norman Bates was meant to be a woman. Does not mean that anybody's meant to be a woman just because they are jealous and envious of women and wish that they were a woman. That doesn't mean that they're meant to be one. So when I was getting situated at a certain point in his apartment. Again, it was a 1-bedroom apartment, but I was more than happy to sleep on his very big, comfy couch. He did at one point suggest to me that I could come and sleep in his bed. Now, I would like all of you guys to think about your grannies. Remember, this is a 70-year-old man or someone claiming to be a 70-year-old woman. So think of your 70-year-old Nana or Noni or Gam Gam or Grammy, like whatever you called your grandmothers. Think about them. Imagine them for a moment, the time you've spent with them, the way they were, the way they are. And I can tell you also from personal experience being a now 40-year-old woman, as women get older, we like our private personal space. We have certain spaces that are sacred to us and they are our safety place, our safety spaces, particularly. So usually for a woman, it's quite often almost our whole house. Women go to great lengths to decorate their households, to make them feel comfortable and safe. So, in a way, our whole house is like a place of safety. It's a safety zone for us. But particularly in our house, our bedroom and our bed is very much a safety zone. And it's just really scary, sickening that this guy is he's a counselor, a behavioral health counselor. Keep that in mind. So, hey guys, I don't know about you, but I know, I grew up, I knew my grandmother very well. She was around up until actually just a few years ago. My grandmother died only about 2 to 3 years ago. 2021, spring of 2021 is when my grandmother passed away. So about 3 years ago now. So I knew my grandmother very well. It's well known in my family that I was sort of a favorite of hers. I was very close with her. And so I got to know her very well, and I got to know her little qualms and stuff. And I also know many other grandmas and elderly ladies. And I know that women, as we get older, we like our safe places, and we don't just let anybody come, lay down in our bed, in our bedroom. Particularly not some random person that we barely know, that we brought in off the streets. Even if they're a friend of a friend, if you just met them, if you're a particularly nice lady, you might let a woman who's down on her luck come stay with you and stay in an extra bedroom or sleep on your couch. But even if it's a woman, if you don't know her very well, you're not going to let her come and sleep in your bedroom, in your bed. You're just not going to do that. Usually that's reserved for, my grandmother. Can you imagine that? For those of you who have grandmas that you know or knew, would your grandma ever have let some random stranger, even if it was a woman, come and sleep in her bedroom, in her bed? She might have let her come sleep in an extra room. She might have let her come sleep on the couch, but not in her bedroom, in her bed. My grandmother would never have done that. You know, the only people who would have had that privilege are typically, you know, once you're that age, the only people you're going to let come sleep in your bed are your blood relatives who you're very close with. Your children, your grandchildren, possibly your siblings, and your husband. You know, that's it. That's the whole list right there. And even then, you know, grandmas can be kind of ornery, and they get very locked into their routines. You know, elderly women, it's like the more we experience life as women, the more we're betrayed by men and people in general, just the more down, hardships and stuff, or betrayals that we go through, just the more we sort of make our own little corner of the world that is a safe place for us. And I feel like to some degree that also extends to men, but way more to women. We like a little corner of the world that is our safe place that not a lot of people are allowed into. And again, it usually would have to be somebody you've known for a very long time and you trust a lot. And typically even just somebody that you are related to. And again, even then, like if you have a particularly ornery grandmother, she might let you take a nap in her bed, but she'd come kick you out like when she wanted to lay down and take a nap, right? Even if you're her grandchild or her child, she'd be like, all right, go sleep on the couch. So, but again, you know, a random woman, a random person, she would not let even take a nap in her bed. You know, it would be just like, here's the couch or here's the extra bedroom at best. And there are a lot of grandmas out there, a lot of elderly women out there who wouldn't even let you in their door. They wouldn't let you in the house. If they don't know you, haven't known you for years, especially because, like, first of all, we're women. We're physically, typically, we learn this sometimes the hard way. We're physically weaker than at least half of the species, than all the males, except young little children. And then also, you know, if as you get older, you also get that much more physically weaker. So at that point, I can imagine you'd be afraid to even let younger women, you know, a middle-aged woman, like a 30-some-year-old woman, into your household, or particularly not into your bedroom, because like even a 30-some-year-old woman could overpower a 70, 80-year-old woman. So again, like any normal, sane, elderly woman, 70-year-old woman, is going to be very careful about her privacy and her safety and her private space, and particularly about her bedroom and her bed. And she's not going to just, you know, suggest that some random woman 38-year-old woman who she's allowing to come stay with her for a little while, she's not going to say like, oh, you can come sleep in my bed. She's not going to do that. That's not normal at all. Now, I can definitely see, and I've known plenty of older men too, elderly men, 70-some-year-old men, who would probably jump on the opportunity to have a 38-year-old woman come and sleep in their bed, because they tend to be a bit more frisky and lecherous, yeah? Like, ooh, much younger girl. Come sleep in my bed, you know? So, yeah. That it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Now, the exception to this rule, and there are exceptions to just about every rule, you're going to have your outliers with just about everything. You might, maybe, see an older woman do this if she is desperate for love and attention and acceptance, and she just wants any kind of connection with somebody. Then she might let another woman come and sleep in her bed. But like I said, that person is like that, they're psychologically unsound. So either way, it's like either he's meant to be a woman, but he's very psychologically unsound, which again, let me remind you, this person is a counselor. Yeah. Or more likely, he's just a man pretending to be a woman, or affecting his idea of what a woman is. He thinks he's a woman, but he's not. He doesn't adhere to like very real life, like realistic, in almost like this is sort of an intangible quality of a woman. As we get older, we get way more self-protective. Younger girls, they might be a little bit more up for like a slumber party. You know, teenage girls, early 20-somethings in college, you know, they might get drunk and pass out in a bed together and, you know, after partying and having a pillow fight. But not a 70-some-year-old woman, and certainly not a 38-year-old woman. Like, as a 38-year-old woman, even in the situation, I felt kind of awkward that he was offering for me to come sleep in the bed. And I was like, no, I'm good, thank you. Even though I knew the bed would be more comfortable than the couch, I was like, it felt weird and gross, and I didn't want to sleep in the bed of some older person that I barely knew. And it just felt a little bit too personal, and it was awkward enough that I was coming and staying with this guy. He's a guy, this guy pretending to be a woman who I didn't know before I met him at his door. It was awkward and weird enough, but I was desperate for a place to stay. And yeah, being invited to come sleep in the bed was just like beyond the threshold of weird, and uncomfortable. And again, I didn't like take the time to analyze it immediately when it happened. It just didn't sit well with me. And then a bit later on, again, like I only stayed for a couple of nights, and then I left because things were just getting too weird. I started tasting weird stuff in the food he was making for me, and I started getting after I'd eat the food he would make for me, like within about an hour, I'd get like really lightheaded and kind of dizzy and tired and like pass out on the couch, and I just felt really unsafe there. So I gathered up my stuff and left, and just like just like, you know what, I'll figure something out. But yeah, I would urge all of you guys to really think about the issue I've just brought up with you. Really think about your nanas and your Grammies. Would they have done something like that? Would they have, first of all, allowed a total stranger to come stay with them? And if so, would they have offered their bed? Or would they more likely have been like, here, you can sleep on the couch for a few nights, or in a spare bedroom? Particularly, and you know, maybe it might also be the case that this would be more normal in maybe a third world country or something like that. But we're talking about two people who were raised in New Jersey, in the United States of America. It's a first world country, New Jersey. Like, it's just not normal for 70-year-old women to invite other women who are 30 years their junior to come and sleep in their bed, you know, and a total stranger at that. It's just not normal. It was very suspicious. When I realized it, when my brain like supplied that answer to me, I was just like, yeah, I'm really glad I left. Because it was definitely feeling very, you know, something was off about it. Like, it was just not, it felt like I had walked into a dangerous situation. That's the best way I can describe it. Like, I really felt like I'd walked into a spider's web trap kind of a scenario where this guy was looking for ways to hurt me and get away with it, and whilst also pretending to be a friend and somebody trying to help me. But again, I do think that it was set up from the very, very beginning, because this guy and the woman Jen, who's like 2 years younger than me, I think we worked out 2 or 3 years younger than me, but she looked like she was twice my age. She looked like kind of haggard. And I do think that they are a part of this network that I've been researching and writing about and trying to expose for a few years now. And again, I think that they engage in child trafficking, in the rape of children, incest, pimping children out to different members of their network, so on and so forth. And I think that these people are definitely displeased with me trying to get them caught. And so I do think that they have made at least a few attempts to harm me in some ways. And I believe that luring me into staying with this guy was one of those attempts. So, and for any of you out there who might work with Tristen and Nicol in a counselor capacity, or any of you who might have ever been sent to see him, be counseled by him, I would, if I were you, stop seeing him immediately. I would stop working with him if you can, and I would go to another counselor, and I would talk to that counselor about the things he might have said and done, with you, and see how it adds up. Because I do think also these people try to sow chaos wherever they can. So I think that quite a few of them, they get into psychiatry, and counseling, and likely mislead people on purpose to become even sicker and even more confused about themselves and the world. So yeah, that's just one topic that's been popping up in my mind for a while here and there, that I've been meaning to touch upon and point out. It is not normal for a 70-year-old woman to invite a 38-year-old woman who's a stranger to her to come and sleep in her bed. It's just not normal. He's not a woman. He's pretending to be a woman. Or he's very delusional and thinks that he's a woman. He's not a woman. He behaves too much like a man. Like a man putting on an act. And again, he's acting like his idea of what a woman is. But he is not a woman. And this is why you guys have to really pay attention and analyze and pay attention to your gut. Because remember, my gut instinct was the first thing that kind of alerted me that something was wrong when he said that. And it wasn't until I kind of, thought about it a bit more that I came to the conclusion, like, oh, that's why. That's just not normal behavior for a 70-year-old granny type woman. It's just not. Even if he weren't, even though he's not a granny, as far as I know, doesn't have any grandchildren. Again, just the very nature of being a woman, having been a woman for years and years and years, it's just a natural sort of result, byproduct, whatever, if you will, of being a woman in the world, that you one of the coping mechanisms is you sort of carve out a little safe corner for yourself in the world, and you don't just let random strangers into that safe corner. You just don't do it. You learn pretty quickly that you are physically weaker than a lot of the people around you. And you learn to you avoid certain situations where you could just too easily get hurt, unless you are very desperate. Like in my case, I was very desperate for a place to stay. If I had any other options that I could think of at the time, I wouldn't have gone to stay with this dude. And it was lucky for me that I managed to figure out another option within a couple of days. So I don't want to prattle on too much about this, but this is something I wanted to talk about more and discuss. This guy is definitely dangerous. I feel like he posed a real threat to me when I was staying with him. And I sincerely hope that somebody who works in this industry and perhaps with him or around him finds this video and takes my testimony seriously. Please take my testimony about this guy seriously. He's a guy pretending to be a woman. Or he genuinely thinks he's a woman, but he's not a woman. He does not display very typical womanly behaviors that are the result of just being a woman in the world, living years and years and years as a woman, experiencing life as a woman, looking at the world through the eyes of a woman, feeling like a woman. He does not behave like somebody who does that. He behaves like somebody who is affecting his idea of what a woman is, and only at certain times. So, all right. I'm going to leave it there. And, I hope this guy loses his ability to practice counseling. I really do. I really don't think that he's a good influence on anybody. I think that he's a snake in the grass. And I do think that he is a part of this network that engages in child abuse. And I really hope that somebody looks into this woman, Jen. I forget her last name. I want to say Borden, but Jenny Borden, it's possible. It's like a similar type name. But there were pictures of her and her daughter all over his Facebook page, in the photo albums. But again, you have to be friends with him on Facebook in order to view them. I really worry for that little girl. And another thing I worry about is that because he has probably some kind of degree or certificate in counseling, that his, what he says will trump what I say in other people's eyes. It's like, just because they have that some kind of piece of paper saying that they are a counselor or a psychologist or something does not make them God. It does not make them sane. There are a lot of examples out there. I don't have any on backup waiting to show you, sorry. But go digging. You shouldn't have to dig very, very deep. You'll find plenty of examples out there of psychologists, psychiatrists who are, deeply deranged and caused a lot of trouble and problems for their patients and for the people around them. And, they use that clout. They use the clout that they have, because people tend to look at psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors as being like infallible sometimes, like they look at them like, oh my gosh, tell me how to live my life. Tell me what's wrong with me. And it's like, when you leave yourself totally open to someone like that and you just look at them like they have all the answers, you leave yourself vulnerable to somebody who could be like, if you're lucky, they genuinely want what's best for you. But that's not everybody in the world. Certainly some bad people in the world have degrees in psychiatry and psychology. If you're not careful, you're going to end up the patient of one of those people, and you're just going to take for granted that they know everything and that you should just listen to everything they say. And they could really, mess you up. For no other reason than they're malicious and they secretly, hate themselves or hate everyone around them, or maybe just hate you because you're a woman and they wish they were a woman. So yeah. All right. I'm going to leave it there. So Tristen E. Nicol, also known as Thomas A. Pallone. Sorry, I do not feel like this is doxing, because I'm telling you this guy's name, and like, it's really easy to Google him and look. His address pops up. As far as I know, he doesn't live there anymore. I don't know for sure, but I know that this is the address that I actually met him at. It's possible he has multiple addresses. I don't know. But if you're able to just Google a name, and I should be allowed to say the name of the guy that I'm very scared of, then, or, well, I don't want to say very scared of, but like very suspicious of, and had sort of a scary experience with. I should be able to say his name in a video on YouTube. And if it's this easy to just type his name into Google and, tell you, like, I also am saying, like, he grew up in New Jersey. So if it's that easy to just type his name in New Jersey in Google and see this address, then I don't consider that to be doxing. Sorry. I consider it to be doxing if, like, I'm giving you information that you couldn't possibly find on the internet. All right. So, all right. I'm going to leave it there. Watch out for this dude. He's a dude. He's a guy. He's a male pretending to be a woman. He is not a woman trapped in a male's body. He's just a male. All right. All right. Good night.